And then the third step in this journey to transformative leadership is fulfilling the mission. So this is where I'm a little curious, is how does the interpersonal items, how does that tie into or lead to fulfilling the mission?
That's a great question. And the answer depends partly on whether you are the business owner or whether you're somewhere in the middle in someone else's company. Right. So if you're a business owner, even if you only have one employee, you always have to remember that you started your company for a reason that makes sense to you, but that doesn't mean it makes sense to everyone else. Like probably half of the business owners started a business because they didn't want to work for someone else, right? It's like I don't want to ask someone that I can if I can take vacation, right? Like I want to be my own boss. So okay, then that's your purpose, right? That's like your mission as you begin, and then you start thinking, okay, well, what kind of business should I start? And then okay, I'm going to start a roofing company. And then, okay, I should probably have a mission for that. But the real mission that's driving you as the business owner is, I just don't want to work for anyone else. Well, okay, none of your staff are going to get on board for that mission, right? Like no one wants to be like, okay, I sign me up, John, because my purpose is now to make sure you never have a boss. Of course, no one's going to do that. So then you have to figure out, okay, well, what's our mission? And this is where a lot of business owners they lose this point because they in their mind they're driven, right? They're intrinsically motivated. So it's just like, okay, we got to do this, we got to get more clients, we need more lead gen and we can even have the strategy in place, but what we're missing is that heartbeat, the heartbeat of the company. The best recruiting tool you can have is calling people to a mission. So we spoke before we got on air here about my previous career being in ministry. Well, in ministry, I remember, in a sense, poaching people out of the corporate world to come work for the church at a fraction of the salary. But I wasn't competing on salary. I was calling them to something that they felt like was bigger than them, right? And so people were willing to sacrifice money and even the safety that brought for something more purposeful. So remember that even as you're recruiting for your company, it's like, okay, well, what are we building here though? What are we creating? So that's the piece if you're a business owner. And of course, you just have to understand that shift from why I started the company to why are we doing the company. For people who are working at a company and you're a middle manager and you think, well, the mission, what's that again? Or where's that on our website? I got to go look that up. Regardless of what the company's mission is, you have to find a way that becomes your mission or you're going to tweak it. Like, okay, so you're over the marketing team. All right, well, here's the company's vision. That's great. That's the CEO's job. But you still have to create a vision for this group. And I'll give you an example. One time my father this goes back 20 years almost. My father had a stroke. He was in the hospital. So I was there for a few days. But it just turned out that I had to give a speech to the Radiology Managers Association like a few weeks later. I knew nothing about radiology managers. So I went down to the radiology department and I said, hey, can I talk to the manager? And the woman's like, oh, he's not here. And it was like down in this basement, sort of dark and dingy. And then I said, so what's it like to work here? You know, looking around. And she goes, this place is amazing. And I'm like, well, what's your boss like? And she said, oh, he's so visionary. I was like, really? Tell me more. Because hospitals are so filled with red tape and bureaucracy. And she goes, oh, he has such a vision of what we're trying to make this department to be. And you see that machine over there, like state of the art. We're the only ones in the state that have that machine. And the reason we have it is because he was like, we're going to get this. And he went out and made sure we got it. And so that's an example of someone in the middle creating a vision for their staff to be a part of. And that's the emotional part that needs to has pulling power, right? We still need the strategy, right? We need the strategy and the execution. That's a piece of this, but that heartbeat, that's what great leaders are able to create.
I love that. And if I could, like, here's how I sum that up. Tell me if I'm wrong. But to me, it feels like that's the moment when you go from me to we.
Exactly.